Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
So today we're talking about lucky pennies.
Find your lucky penny.
Yeah, find your lucky penny and unlucky pennies. I mean, it's,
Yes.
I remember like you'd be walking around and, I don't know if this is even a thing anymore, but you'd see a penny, and if the penny was face up or heads up on the ground, it was a lucky penny, and you'd pick it up and you'd be lucky the rest of the day. And if it was tails down, you wouldn't touch it. You would just leave it there because that tails up penny meant you were going to have a bad day if you picked it up.
Yes. Yep. And, that superstition, where certainly people are superstitious. It's a interesting phenomenon for sure. And it reinforces upon itself. And the psychological term, and we know this from doing all of our Anthony Robbins and all the other personal development through the years, but the Pygmalion Effect is really what it's called. And especially if you're a teacher, and this is something that we've talked about for years, that I train my instructors on, is the belief you have in not only yourself, but more importantly, I think, is in your students that are in front of you. And if you believe your students are, they're just not listening, they're not, it's a full moon, it's just not going to go well, guess what? You're right. It's not. Yeah. But if you believe that you have great students, they listen well, they sometimes get distracted, but they come right around. What are you going to have? You're going to have much, much better students.
Yeah.
And I think people discount that. And I think those are the ones either A, aren't good teachers, or B, are rookie teachers. They don't realize the power in that.
Well, and I think it's funny, using the word superstition is interesting because, like, it is, right? It's something that, has been around forever, that people believe in. But why? Because there's proof in it, right? There's proof that picking up a lucky penny, like a heads up penny, people will have luck the rest of the day. But, I think, what's interesting is it has nothing to do with the penny. What it has to do with is their expectations of what they're looking for the rest of the day. I mean, you could pick up a lucky penny and win the lottery, right? And feel like, well, it was because of the lucky penny. Or you could pick up the penny and like not get hit by a bus. And you'd say, oh, well, it was because of the lucky penny. Because your brain is literally like out there searching for things that will prove that lucky penny is lucky, which, that's exactly what we're talking about here. And to go one step further in this podcast, we're going to talk about how to create that without even having to find a penny, how to create that luck and that expectation in your day.
Well, we look for patterns. I mean, that's what we do. We look for patterns. So we look for patterns to keep us safe, to make sure we're avoiding the things that could harm us. But in the same regards, you can look for patterns of success, things that are going to make you better, things that are going to make you more successful. And that's really what it is. It's pattern recognition. And some people are really, really good at it. Yeah. The people that tend to be able to predict things coming up is really just them being really good at pattern recognition. They saw something in the past, and now this is very similar to what I saw. So this is most likely what's going to happen. Yeah. You can do it in investments. You can do it in relationships. You can do it in a bunch of things. Of course, it's not 100% right. It's not 100% accurate, but not much is. But what it does, it gives you a skill to use.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think, it's funny because we could do a whole nother podcast on pattern recognition. I mean, that's that's a skill that I think, people could develop so much more. And a lot of those patterns literally just start with our mindset and our ability to look for those cues and to, kind of be what's wrong is always available and so is what's right, and our brain is always looking for things, so training our brain to have the proper expectations, it literally, like, by doing nothing else, can have a huge impact on your life and your progress. And I think it's funny because when we talk about luck, and like when you and I talk about luck on this podcast, most of the time we're talking about creating luck, through action, through progress. if you want to be lucky in 5 years, start doing stuff today,
Right.
that will make you feel lucky in 5 years. But this is a really cool twist on it because this is something you can do just within your 2 ears, like in your mindset,
Right.
that
Right.
can have just such a good impact.
Yeah, for sure. And so I want to get into the first step because you already alluded to it.
Mhm.
It's really starting your day with a lucky trigger.
Yeah.
And what I like about this is its intention. You're intentionally doing something. And if we think about a trigger, we all have triggers, but oftentimes we think of triggers as negative.
Mhm.
Oh, that really makes me angry, when somebody does this or says this or looks that way. And yes, we have those as well. But triggers can also be positive, but oftentimes we need to set them up. We need to create them. We need to make them. In the martial arts, our student creed, you could say, is a trigger,
Yeah.
a positive trigger, because what they're doing is they're saying their intentions out loud with the group in front of people. So that's going to start the class off strong, a good strong position, where they're snapping strong, ready to bow. That certainly is a trigger. So what we're talking about is how can you create things in your morning to trigger you for success, to trigger you to have a great day, every day.
Yeah. Well, and you think about what average people do first thing in the morning, right? The alarm clock goes off and they wake up begrudgingly, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
here we go. And the mindset is, let's see how today goes, right? That's
Right.
the,
Yep.
and so
Yep.
what we're doing when we do that is we're letting our brain look for anything, and then we're assigning value to it.
Yeah.
Instead of, finding those triggers, setting that opportunity clock with, some
Hmm.
positive music that gets us going, right? So instead of just
Right.
having the burr, burr when it goes off, throw a positive song in there, throw a picture on your alarm clock that, reminds you of the opportunity that you're going into that day. I mean, whenever I leave my house, when I first walk out the door, I say in my head, this is going to be a great day. Now that's
Right.
late, right? Because that's like a couple hours after I wake up. So I have other triggers,
Right.
but I think it's important to have those little, consistent triggers for yourself to tell yourself that this, like today's going to be great. Things are going to go in your favor, and that's what's going
Hmm.
to point you in the right direction.
And we're both morning people, so maybe people listening aren't morning people. That doesn't mean that you can't have triggers to start your day positive. I think you need to find out what works for you. How do you like to get up? I like to actually get up and get moving and get started. I don't like to get up slow. I don't like to get up and then sit back on, watch TV or look at my phone. I like to get up and get ready into action, work out, whatever my day is, but I like to move.
Yeah.
If you're not like that, then you have to create something, and that's what we're talking about, is creating a successful morning that you can do consistently. That's a trigger that's going to wake you up. And I love your suggestion. It might be music, it might be reading, it might be a bunch of different things, but whatever it is, pick one thing that you really love to do that's going to get you going in the right direction for the morning.
Yep, 100%. I think that's a great tip. Going into the second step, which I think we're kind of getting into here, is when we're going into situations expecting the best. I mean, I think the phrase we've always used is expect the best but prepare for the worst, right? Like we want to be,
Sure.
we don't want to go in blind thinking that just everything's going to be okay and not, being ready for those rocks that they
Yeah.
can throw at
Yeah.
you. But we shouldn't go into the day looking for the problems. We should go into the day really with that expectation that things are going to work out for us.
Yeah, yeah, and this is so important to do when you're interacting with people. If you come into the conversation, the meeting, whatever it is, and you're miserable, you're short with them, whatever, they're gonna not only sense that, they're gonna feel it, they're gonna see it, and then if they're not good at managing their emotions, what's going to happen is the meeting that you have is going to go south really quick.
Yeah.
you know so you should be the leader, you should be the one that's setting the tone. We all work with customers, we both work with customers, and you can diffuse a situation fairly easily or you can make it worse.
Yeah.
When somebody complains to you, do you get defensive right away, and I mean, that's going to trigger them more. Or do you
Yeah.
listen? Do you ask questions? Do you try to diffuse it? Do you try to understand it? And then there might be some points of agreement that you can have, even if they're not 100% right. There's probably something that they are correct in most often that you can agree with. And then from there, you can figure out a solution. Now, does that always work? Well, of course not. You're going to run into people that are just unreasonable, that are totally not correct. But really, if that's the majority of the people that you run into when there's a problem, it's probably you. It's probably not them. So expecting the best is really about setting yourself up for success before the meeting,
Yeah.
before the interaction, before you talk to that person. What do you want the outcome to be? Right? Stephen Covey talks about begin with the end in mind. That's what he's talking about, and especially when you're dealing with people, is you need to have that in your head.
Yeah, and I mean, it reminds me of one of our weekly wisdoms of, be a good finder, and
Yes.
going into things with the expectation that you're going to find something good. We all know those people that we run into and we go, oh no, not this person again, right? Like we all,
Yep.
like it or not, we all have those people in our lives, in our circle where, we
Sure.
would rather turn and walk the other way, but we have to talk to them.
Hmm.
But if we
Right.
go into the interaction with that in our head, they feel it. It doesn't improve anything, and it just blah, right?
Yep.
But if we go into it with just that expectation that, I'm going to find something good in this, your
Hmm.
brain is going to be looking for that throughout. And the same goes with
Right.
situations. There's things
Yep.
we don't want to do. There's things that we don't want to work out one day, you
Right.
know, but if we say, I'm going to find something in this workout that I enjoy, your
Hmm.
brain's going to find it and it's going to make it more enjoyable overall.
Right. Yep. For sure. For sure. So I think number two is a big one, that if you just adjust that, you're going to see a huge difference
Yeah,
with your interactions with people. You're going to see
100%.
that people are more agreeable, people are nicer, people are going to do things for you because that's the expectation. You
The
know,
same, and they're the same
um,
people.
and so I think probably number two is a big thing.
Yeah.
What's that?
The same people.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yep.
you're not changing the
All
people,
right.
you're just
Moving on to
changing
number three.
your
Yeah. Same
expectation.
people. Oh, right, right, right. Yep, it's the same people. Exactly. You're the one that changed. Yep. So moving on to number three, and this is something that you've heard us say before, but it's reflecting on the moments throughout your day. So at the end of the day, I mean, you could call it a gratitude list for sure, but I think is the simple thing is just reflecting on the lucky moments, quote unquote.
Yeah, and this is the one that we've talked about in the past. I call it the pudding, right? The proof is in the pudding. This is where we sit
Yep.
down and we say, I left my house saying today's going to be a great day. And then at the end of the day, it's going through and reflecting and saying, what
Hmm.
made today great? What great things happened
Right.
today? So I'm reinforcing, we're reinforcing basically what we told ourselves in the morning. And it goes through all the process. It goes through going through
Yep.
some of the things that maybe weren't favorable and finding why were
Hmm.
those lucky, why were those great. So I think this reflection at the end of the day is just that cap that makes us really powerful.
Yeah. The question of what went great today. That's a very simple question that will get your brain moving in the right direction and get your brain moving on things that you did right. And I think sometimes this is difficult for achievers, because we look at things and we're like, okay, this is what we can improve on. Let's improve this. Let's get this better. And not that we're negative, but we're looking for things to get better.
Yeah.
How to hone the process, how to improve different things, the Kaizen principle. Um, and you can go too far into that and not realize all the things that you are doing right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you at least go through and ask that question a couple times so you can. And I think that's very important with the team. So if you're working with a team, that at the end of the night that you're talking about that, what were the successes tonight? What
Yeah.
what did we work on, or the day? Whatever the case is. That way you're ending the day on a positive. We try to. I think that's super important, to end the day in a positive versus end the day in a negative.
Yeah. And I think this it probably came from Tony Robbins, but I remember he said, if you want to have a great year, start documenting the great things that are happening, and then,
Mhm.
journal those. And then at the end of the year, go back and look at it. And, regardless of where you are mentally, when you look at all those wins,
Right,
throughout a year, it works on that scale too. So it's not just about the day.
right,
It's, hey, 2025 is going to be a great year. Awesome. Start
yeah,
writing every day, write down the great things that happened.
right,
So at the
right.
end of the year, you can go back and say, yeah, this was a great year. It really was. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
for sure. Yep. Yep. Great tip. Great tip. So those are three things. I think it's time to review to make sure that we have it all set. So final wrap here. So number one is start your day with a lucky trigger, which means that find something that works for you. Could be working out, could be maybe it's coffee, that gets you going. It could be something simple. It doesn't have to be a lot, but something that you can do consistently that gets you focused on your day.
Absolutely. Number two, expect the best in people and expect the best in situations. So go into, your meetings with people, go into your projects, go into your workouts, go into whatever, but make sure you have that expectation that it's working out in your favor. It's lucky, it's good, it's going to be great, whatever. Have that positive expectation on it.
Those moments that you had throughout your day that you can say, oh wow, that went really well. I was really proud of this. Whether you write them down, which is important to do, or you don't, even reflecting it and putting it in your mind can be very, very helpful.
Absolutely. And that wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will catch you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.